Welcome, everybody, to what we're calling the closing happy hour of ACDC 2023. With me is the maestro behind this fabulous event, Brant from the Armchair Dragoons. Brant, thanks for coming. Hopefully, everybody who has managed to participate in the event has had a good time. I'm hearing positive commentary on everything except the food.
Yeah, well, that one's your own fault.
Yes, that's true. Yes, I had a spam sandwich earlier today. God damn it.
I can't help you with that one, man.
Nope. It's like, and I got this show. I'm not going to cook. I got like 20 minutes. I guess I'm having a spam sandwich. So,
yeah.
So welcome, Mandering Mike, E4 Airman, and Joe Okabayashi so far. Looks like we got about 15 people. Don't forget to thumbs up the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. So, Brent, how do you think ACDC 2023 went, and what lessons have been learned that will be applied to future events? I mean, I assume this won't be the last one, so
I'm planning on it not being the last one. I mean, we've made the commitment that MLK weekend every year we're going to do our ACDC. So that means I got to show up for a couple more years to do this. The biggest thing has been for the ones where we actually got GMs and players connected together, it's gone really well. We've had a couple of events where we lost GMs for different reasons, mostly medical stuff, right? Somebody had COVID, somebody had the flu, that kind of stuff. Or
you can run a game from your basement with COVID. I mean, come on.
Well, it wasn't that. It was we lost one of the Twilight 2000 GMs in the run up to this because he was down with COVID for like 10 days or whatever. And so the combination of not having the full prep time to get ready plus having to make up hours at work cost us that guy.
That's understandable. I am just full of shit here. So
yeah, we had a couple of places where we lost GMs due to particular issues, and a couple of places where the GMs were ready and willing, and we just didn't have players show up for those events, which was unfortunate because there's some cool stuff. Like the yesterday's session for Robotech reconstruction didn't get any players, and so Austin spent some time testing the solo bot that they're developing for the game. But it would have been nice to have a couple extra players show up because it's not just slap a cartoon license on some hokey game. I mean, it's under
they
war game.
Yeah, I had an interview with Austin, and they put a lot of effort into that thing. That is not just some randos trying to milk a successful IP from somebody else.
Yeah, exactly.
So they actually care about the Robotech universe and are less confused by it than I am, apparently. But my experience with Robotech is limited to like when the cartoon was on in the 90s here in Ohio. So I remember at one point in the show, it's like, wait a minute, where are they? I have no idea what has just occurred. None of the characters that we have been following from the beginning are here, and now we're on like a different planet, I think, maybe with different bad guys, kind of, sort of. I don't know.
Yeah,
but yeah, no, they put some serious effort into that. They are true aficionados of the Robotech universe, and they have put together a pretty nice product.
Yeah, but they've done some serious game design under the hood too.
Yeah. Now, when is it coming out?
It's shipping now. There are copies in hands now.
So unlike previous Robotech game efforts, this one is actually going to be released, and we're not just going to stiff all the Kickstarter backers.
Expect to see unboxing photos from us on Thursday.
Okay, so there you go. Ant's question answered. It is shipping, folks. So if you bought into
in people's hands, I think Justigard already has some video on his channel for it that he did before he took off for vacation.
Okay, so and like I said, I've got the video with Austin, one of the Wicks. With one of those guys, it's actually pretty neat. It's coin. It's not a coin game, but it's definitely coin inspired.
Yeah.
So that kind of asymmetry in design. I mean, I feel dumb pointing out the asymmetry as the asymmetry. I don't know what I just said. The asymmetry as like the cardinal feature of that, but all war games are asymmetric, right? So. I think there's a whole bunch of other things going on with any given coin or even coin inspired game that are more important to the design than just asymmetry.
Yeah. Some folks have said that it's a little closer to Root than the coin games are than it is to the coin games. That's splitting hairs in my mind because Root is at its heart a coin game.
I, yeah, I don't agree, actually. Um,
I
but
think
you
it's
know,
a coin game in a petting zoo, but
definitely inspired and does have more than one of the elements that are popularized in a wargaming space by coin, right? But
yeah,
I wouldn't go so far as to say it is a coin game because that
yeah,
is specific name for a specific series from GMT that with rules that are relatively tightly constrained between the different games, and there is some variation, of course, between the different games, right?
yeah.
But it's also been super popular and very influential, and so I'm not going to try and tear everybody that has been inspired by coin to do their own thing with oh, just another coin game. That
Yeah.
seems dismissive to me, and I don't like that. Mo from
We've
Mo's Game Table is here. Mo, thank you for taking over for me at the last minute on Friday. I was supposed to do the opening happy hour. And on Thursday, my wife told me, "Oh, by the way, I have tickets to Avenue Q," and that's like tomorrow. I'm like, "Oh, oh, oh, shit! What time is this at?" So yeah, there was some scrambling, and Mo was kind enough to inconvenience himself to unfuck my personal situation. Avenue Q was great, but some last minute schedule adjustments were required.
in the interest of marital bliss,
And
we
right,
tagged
yeah.
Mo
Well,
in.
she wanted to go, so it was her idea, but I didn't object to going to see it either. So
Yeah.
yeah, just imagine when I start singing the show tunes. So that'll be something to see, won't it? That's more likely than the mythical rap video that Brant
I was
Keith
about to say, if
asked me
you're
to do.
gonna go for a music video, we need our rap video.
I'm thinking the chances are very, very low that either of those things are going to occur. So
I mean, we even had a petition for it.
you did, and you got like, I don't know, 12 or 13 people to sign that thing.
I thought we hit. I
And
thought we
everybody
hit
else was
30 at
like,
one point.
"What? No, 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 no. We don't need to see that. Nobody wants to see that."
Yeah. So the yeah, overall, the event has gone well. I think one of the biggest lessons that we're taking away from this, and it's something that I'd mentioned in another conversation elsewhere this weekend. For a handful of us, guys like Bionic Findley, as the dude has been at every one of the ACDCs. Pat Garrett's been at a lot of these things. We've got a bunch of guys that are
Has
convention
Billy the
regular.
Kid been at all of them though?
Exactly.
I mean, I'm sure nobody has ever heard that joke before,
we
especially Pat Garrett.
we sort of flip the switch and everybody kind of knows what to do, right? Ryan Hallman
Mhm,
shows up, knows how to get into Discord and corral his players and run the game, and off we go.
mhm,
But we've still got to remember that there's going to be folks out there for whom every one of these events is the first time they're doing this,
mhm,
and that they are in fact digital convention rookies, and we've got to make sure that the on ramp for those guys is a little smoother.
mhm, mhm. I
And
was in on Carl's tutorial for Vassal, and Carl and whoever that other fellow was that was helping
Tim,
was yes, Tim was that was great. And
no, so those guys
I
do a great
heckled.
job, like teaching the buttonology of the
Mhm,
software and such. But I'm talking about even before that, sort of, okay, Discord is the equivalent of the hotel lobby off of which the game rooms exist.
yeah,
And this is
and
where you find your GM and get connected to
mhm.
your game, like that level of basic.
Yeah,
Um,
Discord's not like necessarily less of a learning curve than Vassal is. I found Vassal relatively easy to learn personally. I mean, you don't know
yeah.
everything on day one, but who cares? You learn it as you go. But like, so I'm gaming. I'm doing a Vakdam Rhine game with some gentlemen whom I will not name, who are hardcore gamers and they're totally into using Vassal and completely comfortable with it. They know all the little tricks and shortcuts and all that stuff. And neither of them has ever used Discord before.
No.
So I'm like, well, we could use my Discord server, and they're like, Discord, what's that? I'm like,
Yeah.
let's just use Skype. We're good. You guys have Skype, right? So, there's even for people who you would kind of assume based on zero information would be completely familiar with this technology. They aren't necessarily. So what you need to do for next year is have a video on how to set your thing up for Discord that's released about a week before the convention.
Yeah. A combination of some sort of help video that shows sort of the tour of the space, as well as a little more robust documentation that kind of walks you through getting in, getting involved, getting engaged, that kind of stuff. Brian, you are so full of crap. We
Yeah, no
appreciate
kidding.
it.
Here is a mistaken individual if I've ever seen one.
What we have right now is sort of a one-sheet Discord reference guide, but it's not even really all that great. David, you're full of crap also. We are totally getting Gary to do a rap video at some point. Peer pressure will win out. And but it's
my
just
lack of ability to do that will win out is what's going to end up happening. I'm not going to tell you that there's no skill involved in that. There is, and I ain't got it. So
okay, look, Biz Marquee had a gold album.
Who?
You say he's just a friend? Biz Marquee had a gold album. You can handle a rap video. He has zero talent. Also, look it up.
I don't know who that is. So
yeah.
Yes, Ed is right, but my mom is going to call me and tell me to get a haircut after this video, probably. I think they've only like figured out that there's a thing on Mondays, so. So I have no idea. I'm completely clueless when it comes to this. I'm finding myself in my
bad 90s music,
encroaching old age that less and less tuned into what the youngsters are listening to now. So.
Dude, this is from when we were youngsters.
Okay. I mean, like William Shatner had an album too that probably did okay. So,
yeah.
There is a long tradition of horrible artists who have albums. So, and right now there's a brand new tradition of horrible albums that sell platinum all the time, because that is, they're one of the 5 artists that the megalithic record monopolies want to push down our throats all the time. But anyway, we're not talking about
that. Pat Boone did an album of heavy metal covers. Anything is possible.
That's true. So did Christopher. Well, yeah, that's a little bit different though. Christopher Lee's album is a bit different. Yes, Pat Boone did an album of heavy metal covers, and people were upset. And it's one of those things where everyone was upset. The fanatical people were upset because Pat Boone is now playing devil music, and the devil music people were upset because what the fuck, Pat fucking Boone? My God. What have we come to?
If we take a left turn into obscure music knowledge, we're going to be here for 7 hours.
Oh, we might. But if we were going to do that, we might as well get Dan involved too, who would show us both up. So
probably Dan is one of the guys out there that could legitimately do that to me.
Yeah. I have no questions about that whatsoever. I could tell you some stuff, but Dan can tell you more stuff and has met some of those people, like randomly running into Steve Hackett at the farmer's market and getting him to do an intro for his Wargaming show. Like, what the fuck, Dan? What?
Why not?
What?
Yeah.
So anyway, so what other than the brilliant idea that I just had of having a intro to Discord for the ACDC video for next year, what other things are you looking at having had this experience? Now, what is this, the 4th one?
This is the 5th ACDC.
So there you go.
Yeah,
you guys aren't new
on MLK weekend and 2 in the summers.
Okay, so are you going to do is it your intention moving forward to do it annually or twice a year?
It's the intention going forward is going to be annual. Stick on MLK weekend.
Okay.
The 2 summer ones that we did, one of them was the summer of 2020 when COVID hit, and that was the very first one we did, and nobody had a clue what we were doing, least of all us, and we were the ones trying to do it. That was the very first one, and it proved the concept could work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was one of the first, if not the first, attempt to do this in the wargaming space, I believe. I think the digital SD HistCons came along a little bit later, maybe the following year.
So digital SD HistCon was later that same year. We were the first ones to announce a digital convention like that. Historicon beat us to it by a week. I've joked about this in the past. Historicon got theirs in the week before ours, even though we announced ours first. And the reason Historicon got theirs done a week earlier is the weekend before our first digital convention was my birthday weekend. And like, I like you guys, but I wasn't spending my birthday plugged into Discord with y'all. So Historicon had no such qualms and hijacked my birthday weekend to hold their digital convention.
Now, Historicon is a largely miniatures-oriented event, so I feel
by
like
all events it was challenging. They did a lot of stuff with like cameras over Zoom, over tables on Zoom, and somebody from, Nova Scotia saying, pick those guys up and move them forward 6 inches. No, a little to the left, a little to the left.
No, those other guys. That's fantastic.
There was a lot of that going on.
Yeah. Do you know anything about the point blank Vivas for victory game?
Yes.
And how it went?
So it went really well. The dudes from we had a couple extra guys from Lock and Load show up, and it was as much a teaching session as anything else, because a bunch of the guys signed up because they want to learn the game. Billy actually knows the game. He's been posting a lot of crap about it, and I say a lot of crap, some great content about it in our forums where the guy loves the game. He's been,
and this ain't a 6 pages of rules game, folks. There's a lot going on there.
But it was very much a teaching game. Hey, show me how this all works. But everybody had a good time with it. And that was one of the ones where we had digital experienced GMs. So people that didn't just know the game, but knew how to help coach players through the technology to execute the game, plus a good group of players. And so that was good for that session. And they had a good time with it.
Good. And Iggy Kriegspiel mentions that he played GCACW for the first time at Winter Offensive, which occurred, of course, this weekend in near Baltimore, I should say. So that's where I'm going to challenge you on the whole you're committed to MLK weekend, because there's literally new conventions, Wargaming conventions springing up this weekend, like starting this year. So
find me a weekend when there's not a game convention.
It's looking like, well, there you could find a weekend when there's not a Wargaming convention, though.
Those are getting harder to find.
A little bit, yeah. But I just had a really good idea, which I won't share right now. But we have Winter Offensive, of course, which is MMP's convention, and the Game More People, which is a new event in Oregon, which looks pretty small. Mark Ruggiero says that they thought they would draw about 40, 45 people. But for a wargaming event, that's a good number.
Yeah,
of people,
for starting out, that's pretty good.
Yeah, no kidding. Now they're in Oregon, right? So they're the pickings may be slim over there,
and not just in Oregon. It's not like they're in Portland, right? They're out in the middle of Bug Tussle, Oregon. Like they're in the middle.
I did not check, since this was not an event that I investigated for possible attendance, given where it's at.
Yeah, they're not like at the Portland Convention Center. They're off out in the sticks.
No. They're at a podunk hotel. I can tell you that. Yeah. I saw the video. It's a smaller room than I think the smaller room that we have for Winterfest, which I think only once, maybe twice, has drawn as many as 40 more people or more people. So we'll see how that goes this year. Since people are a little less concerned for whatever reason, for getting COVID and stuff like that. I'm not scared of getting COVID again, because I just fucking had it again. So still not 100% from that, by the way. I still got the gravelly voice. It's my voice hasn't quite. I mean, I feel fine, but the fatigue is still kind of there, and the gravelly voice. I'm gravelier right now, 19 minutes into this show, than I would be normally.
Yes.
So let's play history. Welcome to the show. Thanks for coming.
Yeah. So Jan's group ran the Kriegspiel yesterday morning. They ended up having to bring in a couple of their own folks just to completely fill out the player roles that they needed. But the players that were in it, again, Jan's quote was great, which was, once people get into it, they tend to love it. The problem is getting them to take that first step and get into the game, because they don't really fully grok what a Kriegspiel is supposed to look like, much less how you do one of these online. But again, the IKS guys do one of these a month, sometimes more frequently than that, through their own server. And so when they show up and do one for us, it's not guys just kind of figuring out as they go. It's guys that are bringing a lot of experience to this. And you have a hard time finding folks that didn't enjoy their Kriegspiel sessions with the IKS dudes.
Oh, I bet.
I mean, International Kriegspiel Society.
Those are the folks to be running that stuff. In addition, my standing recommendation on the subject of Kriegspiel still stands, which is that I feel like any wargamer, you might be uncomfortable going into it, and I completely sympathize with that, because you don't really know what to expect. But it's less important that you like it. Maybe you won't like it, but you will find it an enriching experience as a wargamer. Yes. So highly recommended to do Kriegspiels, and frankly, Kriegspiels run very well online. So
yeah. And unlike some of the email mediated ones that our boy Jim Ozarski runs, these don't take 2.5 years.
Right.
This is 4 to 8 hours on a Saturday, depending on whether they're doing a shorter game or a longer game.
Well, it's not like Jim has any other responsibilities or anything like that, since he's basically
No.
running the state of Wisconsin. So I cannot neither confirm nor deny that Mark Herman got COVID from me. If Mark got COVID, then I feel bad, and I hope he recovers well and quickly. Patrick from Patrick's Tactics and Tutorials, who was of invaluable assistance, shoring me up on my GCACW tutorial thing. So that went well.
And look, again, Let's Play History and Patrick's Tactics and Tutorials are both going to be able to chime in with how their specific sessions went, because again, Jan was doing the Kriegspiel stuff. Patrick had a Learn to Play Combat Commander and a Learn to Play Commands and Colors Ancients that both had crowds in them, because I can see who's there in the Discords.
And both of them have outstanding YouTube channels that you should follow and support, by the way.
Yes. For the occasions where we had people, the players and the GMs all get in there together, folks had a great time.
Great.
We still had some difficulty getting players and GMs connected. Getting folks to take a chance on a game they may not have heard of or weren't sure about. And then we had a couple of GMs that we lost for mainly medical reasons, unfortunately.
Well, there's nothing you can really do about that. Now, I personally have always felt like at a convention, I'm normally not going to find like my preferred game. Yeah. So barring that, I always feel like I want to try something new and different that I haven't seen before, right? Even if it's a little, I'm not the best at getting outside my own wheelhouse, right? But at a convention, that would be something that I would probably want to do, right? It's at conventions that I got to play Unknown Armies, right? Which nobody I've ever role played with has ever heard of but me, or more RPG stuff than not.
Yeah.
But the same thing applies to war games, right? If you got a chance to play, Nevsky or something like that, and you've never played Nevsky before, well, hell, sit down and play it. If you hate it, you hate it. You learn something, right? So,
yeah. And one of the things that I think it is always going to be a bit of a challenge that we will have to overcome for the ACDC with some of the other conventions, and SD Hist is one of the prime examples of this. They've got some deep extended relationships with some of the big publishers and big designers out there. So they're going to get Volko to show up and do something. Everybody's going to go, oh yeah, we get to play Volko. Like it's great. Like, I'm glad Volko draws people into those kinds of events. Whereas, Jan, you just put it on the screen. Alex Knight's Land and Freedom is a forthcoming game on the Spanish Civil War. It's not even published yet, but you got a chance to sort of learn it and play it and check it out here. And it's one of Alex's first designs that's getting published. To have an opportunity to play something like that's a little off the map and off the beaten path. We want to give I say newer designers, it's not like they're necessarily all young folks, but folks who are just getting their name out there in the business.
They're not all young and good looking as David Thompson.
Yeah. Well, that's a high bar to clear there. This is the second year we've had Catastrophe Games with us. But, we've brought in folks like Dark City Games, sort of out of the blue and a little more off the map. Hey, let's do something a little different here. And so Ryan Heilman, his Ginormopod game has been picked up by Hollandspiel. But for the last 2 years, he had it in a pre-pub form with us that folks were coming into play. We did an entire podcast episode on this one time, and Gary's done at least one show on it.
I have. It's probably time to revisit the topic, since people are, strangely enough, looking for alternative RPGs right now. So,
yeah, for what it's worth, we did have 2 sessions of Twilight 2000 scheduled for this weekend, and we lost both GMs for medical issues. The different medical issues, because it was 2 different GMs. We did have T2K at the last ACDC, and it was a 6-player session that ran almost 7 hours. It actually ran longer than was scheduled, and everybody loved it. Everybody had a great time with it. So they really had a blast with it. And Jan is right. You should totally try the Kriegspiel, because that is the game from which both wargaming and RPGs spring.
Yeah,
So
and I'll point out that not it is kind of a Kriegspiel, something like the national security decision making game, which is something you can do at Origins and a number of other large conventions, and which is one of the main organizers of which is here in Ohio. Um, that's basically a LARP for wargamers, actually,
yeah,
and again, an enriching experience, even if you end up thinking, "Yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to do that again." Right?
yeah, and unfortunately, so we've again, Merle's been involved with a lot of the stuff that we've done over the years. He's
Hmm.
one of the grand mucky mucks for the NSDM. The
Hmm.
NSDM actually provided two of the seminar speakers, or two seminars, same speaker, for this weekend. They're the two sessions that we had to push to later tonight
Hmm.
because the guy's dealing with a power outage and
Oh
trying
well,
to,
I guess that's the end of that then.
yeah.
So I guess
Mark,
my online event's not happening, huh?
yeah, Mark McDonough was out of power this morning, and so as far as I know, it's back on. And so one of those is actually scheduled to start at 6 tonight, and the other one's going to run at 8 for the for those two talks. The NSDM guys, we've talked to them before about trying to do something with the ACDC, and they've experimented with an NSDM in an online format, and it just doesn't translate well
Hmm.
enough.
That's
The,
interesting.
the, it's
This is actually why I call it a LARP for wargamers, because it's completely based on interpersonal
yeah,
communication, and in order to make it work, you really need to be able to go over and talk to the guy with the name tag that says General Secretary of the Soviet Union, right?
yeah.
So I could understand why they would have challenges making that work in an online format. I think it could be done, but I'm
Well,
not surprised if they found it not incredibly straightforward.
and I don't want to put words in Merle's mouth, but I'm paraphrasing
But go ahead.
closely here. Yeah, I will anyway. Um, it's not that it couldn't be done. It's that it was not high. It wasn't sufficiently high enough to their standards that they wanted to do it where it might potentially color somebody's expectations of what they would get in a real world
Mm,
event.
okay.
So that's why they've dialed it back. So it's fine. It's not like we don't have other options that we can do with stuff online.
Oh yeah,
The
yeah.
the GCACW boot camp that you did, you've done the OCS boot camp in the past. We had even ones where folks aren't necessarily playing, but just sort of watching, like the Air and Armor demo we had today.
Hmm.
Folks seem to really get a kick out of those things, and
Yeah. And
an
it
opportunity
doesn't
to have the
hurt that Bruce
designers
is a
show off the
fabulous
room.
interview.
Yeah,
But
well, anytime you can put a camera on Bruce, it's totally worth doing. The guy's a
oh
blast.
yeah, yeah. Like I said, Bruce is a fabulous interview. I mean, I've interviewed him, Mo's interviewed him. Bruce made the rounds. His enthusiasm will sell you whatever it is he is talking about.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I was like,
The
man, oh, really? Who wants that? It's fabulous. It's just fabulous. So, so
If you
next
can
year,
sell a fairy tale game to Gary, then you're doing
I think I'm going to require that we add 4 or 5 additional days to the convention and have a 13-hour case blue session each day. That's my proposal.
as long as you're the one showing up for all 13 hours each day.
That's a problem. That could be a problem. I will not commit to this.
So, hey, SWO, Surface Warfare Officer, I think you had even admitted to being a former SWO, but that is something that we've done for a long time with the Dragoons. I say for a long time, like we're 5 years old, but that is definitely a space that we have tried to keep feet firmly planted on both sides. And we want to be able to bring the pros to the table in the hobby environment for that cross pollination. And we also do the same thing in the other direction. Our next big virtual event coming up in April is the Connections Online conference. Yeah, JD, go crash, man. I know your wife. He's over in the UK, and he doesn't have tomorrow off.
Ooh.
So,
Well, I don't either, but I'm done here in half an hour, so
yeah,
we're okay.
well, but Billy, thanks for popping in and saying hi. The coming up in April, we have the Connections Online conference, of which we are co-sponsors, and that is that is very much focused on the professional practitioner world. That's not a game playing convention. That is a professional conference with the panel discussions and professional presentations.
Hmm.
So yes, that is definitely a world that we try to spread across both sides on the pro side and the hobby side.
So let me ask this question, actually. And I don't think I've ever actually asked you this question, at least not put in this particular way. Because you kind of bring in the professional side of the discipline of wargaming, both here and at events like Origins and obviously Connections, but that's kind of what happens at Connections.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that has created a barrier in any way to regular gamers who aren't necessarily war gamers, who might find that approach somewhat uh, intimidating? Let me put it that way.
I hope not,
or inaccessible.
Yeah. So I hope not, and I hope not for this reason. I don't want it to ever come across as, to be involved in the wargaming stuff we do, you have to get involved in that practitioner side of things, because I don't think we've ever even implied that that's a necessity to be
involved. No. I'm not trying to suggest that you have, but it's there, right? It's kind of part of the program.
It is there. I think we always want to keep it as a part of the program for those folks who find it interesting. And because we're one of the few places that do it, if we don't, kind of who else does? And
that's true. Well,
and I'm not saying that we only do it for that reason, like we do it because it's stuff that's of interest. So I would hope not. I would hope people don't see it as an intimidation factor, but simply as an attempt to offer a broader perspective for something they wouldn't normally be exposed to.
Okay. Fair. That's fair enough. So
now, again, I'm speaking of my intent. I can't tell you how people are necessarily receiving it. So if there are folks out there,
no idea,
that fit that mold that you're describing, and I don't know that you necessarily have anybody in particular in mind.
I do not.
Apply to.
No one has provided me with this feedback. So
yeah. So it would be interesting if someone does have that perspective. I would love to have that conversation and try and understand it better, to try and mitigate some of those concerns, because that's not something we want to be a problem.
I mean, so let's say you're a D&D player or whatever, and you're walking through the big main event hall, and you kind of stumble across or walk past that Kriegspiel. Now that actually was like a big hit, right? But like the command post exercise, and I thought that was strange. I think everybody there thought that was strange. It's like you got all these like study carrels made out of cardboard set up to run this Kriegspiel, and lots of people are walking by like, hey, what's going on there? That looks neat. And then you've got, conversely, the command post exercise where you got like a big screen TV and a big situation display on there, and like 10 people standing around the table talking loudly. And if they're not talking loudly, then no one is hearing them, because it's loud in that room anyway. So I wonder what, I'm not actually trying to suggest that there's like a negative perception based on that, because I think clearly we have seen that is not the takeaway from the Kriegspiels, at least not that particular year. But I wonder at the sort of presentational effect that has on people who maybe are not familiar with, like, really have no idea what is going on. Is this a game that people are playing? I mean, the command post exercise, kind of, right? I mean, it's framed as a game because it's happening at a game convention, but it's like literally a dumbed down version of the thing that the army runs, right? So which is part of the point, and which is why it's a great experience, right?
Ultimately it's a co-op game. I mean, it's
so that's an idea for Origins, is get those little things put a little sign up that says, what's going on here, and then give a little description of what the command post exercise is all about. That's a good idea. Write that down for Origins.
It'd be like the guided signs at the museum.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's the counter that I will put out there is something that we saw just this past year. Monster war games are intimidating as hell. There's a lot of shit on those maps, and we had a lot of people stop by your Europa table going, hey, what's that? That looks cool.
Even some of the old Europa, this was the funniest part, was whether this happened a couple of times over the course of the weekend. It's like some of the old Europa guys would stop by. Oh, Europa, you guys are playing Europa here again. I'm like, yeah, you used to play? Oh, yeah, we played blah, 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 blah. Oh, well, you want to sit down and play for a couple hours? Oh, no. which I thought was hilarious. They're like, yeah, no, we've had enough. We're good. Thank you.
Yeah.
We're going to go play Catan over there.
I lost the 90s to playing Europa. I'm
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. There was a story. I don't know if this is true or not of some folks that were playing Europa up in near Cleveland anyway. And were playing like the whole Eastern Front, and they got to like late 1942, and it was like, white knuckle gaming, and then they took them like 3 years to get that far in the game, and then the guy's house burned down. So now again, this could be apocryphal. I have no idea, but it is an amusing story nonetheless.
That is sort of, kind of in keeping with the spirit of having to play a full Europa game.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, you might rather your house burn down than actually have to sit through that for three years of play. I mean, after a year, after about 14 months of that, I was ready to jump out a window. So let me tell you, boy, was I sick of Europa by then.
There were some guys. Chris Weave has told this story before. It might have been World in Flames. I don't remember for sure, but it was one of those big global World War II games that spanned everything, and they were doing a giant play by email. And they said, okay, look, here's what we're going to do. We're going to check in the turns every 2 weeks. You got 2 weeks to sort out, because we all got lives. We all got stuff going on. So you've got 2 weeks to check in your stuff. And so, every other Friday, we're going to, turn on the cameras, and whoever's got the master map's going to do all the moving and adjudicate and everything and send the update to everybody else.
I take it this is a pre-vassal situation.
I think so. I mean, this was some number of years ago. Either that, or they had some people that couldn't do it on Vassal. Maybe I don't remember exactly.
Okay,
but for the amusement of the story, it is not necessary exactly how they were adjudicating the turns. What happened was they got about 4 turns into it, and somebody pointed out that the game itself had 2 week the turns were 2 week increments, and they were turning in their turns every 2 weeks. They were essentially playing World War II in real time.
Right.
And they said, yeah, we're not going to do this anymore. We're done. We're going to get through. After 3 turns, we stopped.
So this is a a thing I hear from some people who are like not particularly heavily involved in the wargaming hobby, and other people who are very involved in the wargaming hobby. It's like, oh, I don't want to play any game that takes longer to play than the actual thing it took to happen.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, that like eliminates every tactical game, right? Because no tactical game takes 15 seconds to play out a 15-second firefight. So, and even some of those ASL scenarios, some of those are over in 20 minutes of real time. And yet they might take 3, 4, 8 hours to play, right? So I mean, it's a funny witticism, but I think it doesn't really hold a lot of water. I'm not a fan of that particular
I think for those guys,
rhetorical tool.
You'd think 2 week turns is a long time to get your turn turned in, but it's it's when the game itself runs 2 week turns. It was just the perfect match of the cycle at which they all agreed to play with the duration of the turn within the game.
So for the record, WIF has 2-month turns, not 2-week turns.
Okay, so it wasn't. I'm just saying, then it wasn't World in Flames.
Could have been Europa though, and Europa was does have 2 turns a month. So
yeah, could have been the. It was just an amusing.
Or Struggle for Europe. Struggle for Europe also has 2 turns per month. So.
Yeah, for me, the fact that there are games that take forever and there are games that are over pretty quick, that's great. It's the diversity of our hobby that you can always find something to match what you're interested in. In the case of a digital convention, it can be a little challenging because trying to get somebody to sit there and play an 8-hour session of something is hard to do, even if you break it into 2 4-hour sessions. I think in a convention setting, folks want to sample a lot of different things from the buffet and not just stick with one entree.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, this is a little different, right? I mean, but there are people. Hell, I did this where I went to Origins and played nothing but Pathfinder for 3 days.
Yeah.
So,
but was it the same campaign the whole way through, or was it?
Well, it was the living camp, whatever that they call it, but Pathfinder Society stuff. So you're playing a persistent character.
Yeah. The other thing is you're one of those dudes that shows up at multiple conventions throughout the year, so it's not
Well,
like
that's
that's your
true.
one shot at a convention either.
That's true. Yeah. And my initial plan, of course, was to do like not wargaming stuff this year. And I let myself get talked out of that. So we will, in fact, be bringing the big game action back to Origins 2023. So
That's
I've
the
already
intent.
said what it is. We're going to do Third World War from Compass. So,
And we are in fact putting all 4 games together, right?
that's the plan. Yeah. It's I depend unless you guys bonus on table space. Yeah, that's the plan.
You've got a 6x8, whatever you can fit on a 6x8.
6x8 should be enough.
Yeah.
The Middle East maps kind of sit with the other maps at an angle, so the all the rest of it you can lay on that footprint.
Yeah.
5x8, you could fit all of it except for the Middle East on a 5x8 because we.
Yeah, I'll have to double check the layout. I don't remember if we're 5x8 or 6x8. Either way, I can't give you much more because we got other stuff we got to fit in that space too.
No, I understand, and you gotta, everything's got to be rectangular, right? There can't be any
Yes.
weird jiggery pokery with the table layouts.
I can get
So
you rectangular, I can get you round. Those are your 2
okay.
options.
So we'll see what we can do. Worst case, we leave off the Middle East. So I don't imagine that's going to be much of a problem.
That would be the dream of every American foreign policy.
Yeah, I suppose that's true.
So circling back around to the ACDC, a couple of things that were a little different this time around. We didn't have quite as many of the little 1-hour historical or current event sorts of presentations and talks as I would have liked. And that we just ran into some availability issues with some of our usual speakers.
That's because there's 10 other conventions running this weekend, Brent.
Well, but those aren't ones at which you normally have those kinds of discussions. So, we just ran into some availability issues with some folks. We've got a couple of folks that were taking some time off for vacations. David Thompson, the last couple of years, has shown up and done something with us, whether it was Undaunted or one of the Valiant Defense games. He and his wife are off at a B&B this weekend, and I don't begrudge him that for a moment because dude's been working his butt off ever since the.
He literally does not sleep.
Yeah.
We asked him this. It's like, David, how do you get all this done? And he's like, well, I get up at 4 a.m. and then whoa.
Yeah.
You get up every day at 4 a.m. and work on game design for 3 hours. Well, yeah. I'm like, yeah, no wonder. You know what I would look like? I would look like Uncle Fester if I
wouldn't look as
got
good
up
as
at
David.
4 a.m.
That's for sure.
Oh, yeah, God, no. I mean, I don't anyway with a full night's sleep, let alone getting up at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
So
normally we have David here. David wasn't able to make it this time because he's spending time with his wife, and he should. So that's totally cool. We lost a couple of people to just other things going on, but this was the first time Patrick had come and done something with us, so that was great. Sebastian ran a teaching session of Littoral Commander.
Patrick did GCACW for you a couple years ago. Remember, he was filling in for me because I was going to do it, and then we decided we were going to Winter Offensive instead.
That is right.
So, definitely, Patrick. We're sorry, Patrick. I apologize
Patrick.
on Brand's behalf.
Yes, yes. I F that one up. I totally forgot about you bailing on us to go hang out in Baltimore.
And I chose not to do that this year. A, because I spent all the money already. And B, and this was free. So that's another thing, though, that that a virtual convention has going for it. Other than the obvious thing of you got guys in the UK who probably wouldn't have traveled over here for a physical convention run by either of us.
Let's play history. Jan is over in Germany.
That's exactly what I'm saying. It opens up the potential field of to like everybody, the whole planet, except for all those people who are at all the other wargame conventions that weekend. They can't come, but everybody else can, right? But it's also very economical. What did badges cost? $5?
Yeah, well, and if you get in quick enough, you get them for $3.
$3, right? And it's how as many events as you can stack there, right? So it is an unbeatable use of your gaming get together dollars, right?
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about travel expenses. You don't have to worry about fast food unless you like ordered a pizza, which would be fine. But I didn't. I had a Spam sandwich instead. Thanks, Brant. But I'm not mad about it or anything. Don't worry, it's all good. It gets me away from huffing paint fumes, which I've been doing for most of the last 24 hours. So
yeah. Still not my fault.
So that's not your fault either. So the game room is taking shape. The brackets are up. I just got to get the actual shelves.
I will offer a slight corrective to something you just said, that this opens up the population to anyone who's not at one of the other game conventions. If somebody wants to go to Winter Offensive, pop their laptop open and log into one of our games from the game convention.
Oh, I'm sure you wouldn't mind.
I'm not going to say no.
But you're not running ASL. So actually, it looks like there was a little broader spread of stuff happening. I mean, it's all MMP stuff, right? I mean, it's not like, I don't know if there's a rule or anything, but 90% of the stuff that we saw, unlike at say Compass Expo, where it's kind of like 50% Compass and 50% everybody else. At Winter Offensive, it's like 90 or 95% MMP and 5% everything else, and half that stuff gets busted out at 10 p.m. when everybody's drunk. So but there's, obviously a lot of ASL and GCACW. They had like multiple OCS games going, which I certainly didn't see when I was there. They had a line of battle game going. They had multiple SCS games going. So there was a lot there. So, and I think
they've been very active about posting those photos on social media. So if you were folks, I could definitely see getting some FOMO from Winter Offensive up in Baltimore.
I mean, honestly, one of the reasons I went was to do shopping, frankly, right? So, and I did. I walked out with a lot of stuff, but consequently, coming home, and this has lasted me for the last couple of years, really, other than new releases. That's kind of topped me off on multi-man. I pretty much bought all the multi-man stuff that was like available and I needed. So I've pretty much not. The last couple of times they've had a sale, I haven't bought anything because I had it already, or I wasn't interested in it in the first place. So, Pushy Cardboard says GMT West is 50-50 as well. And based on the pictures that I've seen, that sounds right to me.
Yeah.
So,
and this was Grant's first time with us. He hosted one of the talk shows yesterday. Had Harold on there. Had Harold and friends. A variety of people crashed the stream. They actually dialed me in from work at one point for about.
Oh, awesome! I'm sure your employer didn't mind that at all.
I'm sure my employer wasn't even aware of it, so it's fine. But yeah, I was in there in my my soccer hoodie with the giant Middlesbrough flag behind me because I was at the office there. So, but yeah, look, I'm happy to bring folks in that are active and willing participants and want to do something for the community like that. So when we get around to our ramping up our next ACDC, Grant, who else you want to interview? Let's get it in there and
line it up.
Program. One of the great things about the digital convention, we've sort of joked about this before. I don't have to juggle table space, right? I mean,
oh yeah, no kidding. You just got to set up a different Vassal room for it. Off you go.
If you run long, you run long. Great. Let's do it.
I mean, even as a modest event, let alone Origins, right? Where you might have a really substantial amount of traffic coming through that space on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Even at Winterfest, they've got to have like a floor plan and little things, move the tables around to see what fits where and make sure the people can fit around the tables and all that stuff. So there's actually a lot of planning that goes into that.
The fire marshal wants to say.
Yeah, these guys don't just show up and start setting up tables, right? There's like a plan, right? Now at Buckeye Game Fest, we're just going to show up and start setting up tables. But that's because we have a surplus of space at Buckeye Game Fest, so we're not going to have a problem with it. So that is going to be your next convention effort, right? Is BGF?
I got to check the calendar. I'm not sure if BGF happens the week before or after Connections Online. They are consecutive. They are back to back. I just don't remember which one's first.
Okay, I think Connections actually, but I could be mistaken. Don't quote me on that.
Buckeye Game Fest is the next real world convention at which we are expecting to show up and run games and be involved in the events. There is a game convention here in Raleigh. So I'm based in Raleigh, North Carolina. There is a local convention here called Playthrough that happens in March every year. It's about 60%, 70% digital gaming, because that's what we have a ton of here in our area. There's Epic Games is based here in town, but there's a big Ubisoft building here as well. Epic Games just tore down one of the old shopping malls because they're using that site for their new headquarters they're building. And so because there's a bunch of big digital game companies here in this area, Virtual Heroes is right down the street from me. The guys that did the America's Army game, they're here in town. So it's a heavily digital convention, but they do have a good chunk of tabletop space available. Probably do what I did last year, which is show up and do a bunch of media coverage, but I don't think we're going to be involved in any events at Playthrough this year. So I
Okay.
think the next game convention where we're actually doing event stuff is supporting you in the War Room up at Buckeye Game Fest.
Awesome. And then, of course, Origins in late June this year.
Yes.
So,
And kids are actually out of school by that time, June.
right.
This year.
Unlike, at certain times in previous years. And it's, it's a great event, and it's a great event if you want to go and try a bunch of different things, right? There's an ample opportunity for that, and there'll be some dynamite events available in the Armchair Dragoons area, which might even be called the Armchair Dragoons area this year on the map.
They did get it right on the map.
But don't put any money on that.
No.
I think it was correct on the web map on the web page, but wrong in the map in the program. That's how I'm recalling it anyway.
I think that's correct.
Okay, so.
It's
only been like 10 years.
Assuming they'll ever get it right.
Assuming that Gamma's going to get anything right, maybe not the best place you can wager your money. I'm just saying.
For all the complaints that we have about Gamma, some joking, some not. Here's what I will say. They've consistently given us a chunk of concrete and whatever tables we ask for. We don't always ask for the right ones, but they've given us whatever we've asked for tables.
And when they haven't given us the right ones, we've stolen them.
We figured it out. We didn't steal anything.
We didn't steal anything. We merely
left
borrowed.
it all there. We rearranged the furniture
temporarily from the bowels of the convention center.
All we did was rearrange the furniture, Gary.
There was us creeping through the darkened hallways that back in the back end of the convention center with the Mission Impossible theme playing in the background.
Yeah, you're letting all our secrets out there.
I totally am. Brand, of course, disavowed all knowledge of our actions.
I have no idea what
he just said about. Hey, where'd these tables come from?
I didn't even ask that. I just went, oh, look, a table.
The convention people must have brought us the correct tables. How fantastic.
Our house elves at work.
What a fabulous job Gamma is doing. So efficient.
Yeah. So for whatever other complaints we have about Gamma, and they are numerous and often well-founded, you're right. It actually would.
It would actually.
They consistently give us a good chunk of concrete, whatever tables we ask for, and pretty much the exact schedule we propose to them, and get out of the way and let us run it. And
unless really, you need electricity.
Unless I need electricity.
Right.
But given the constraints
I'm bringing you a gas generator next year. So you can just set it up right in the middle of the area and run the gas generator to run the command post exercise.
The CPXs are the only thing we need electricity for. So it's not like we were like those dudes next to us that had all the iPads for the digital game platform stuff that they would have been truly sunk without electricity. We could have gotten by. They would have been.
Yeah.
But in our case, they give us the space, and they pretty much rubber stamp whatever schedule we send them, and they let us deal with it. They let us run it. And so I think whatever goodwill we've managed to build up with Gamma over the years seems to have paid off in that we get a lot of flexibility to organize and run that wargaming space however we want. And we've been able to make it work. We've been expanding most years. It's very rare that we contract from where we were the year before, unless it's the oddball October Origins coming out of COVID. Like that one, everybody was sunk on that.
Mm-hmm.
So that we've got a pretty sweetheart deal set up there. And look, I get it. Like everybody's gonna make fun about, there's no wargaming at Origins. There is wargaming at Origins. It's not as much as you want. There's not ever going to be as much as there was in 1978. That's fine. But we've got a solid presence. It's well established. People come there expecting to be able to play war games. And some folks spend the entire weekend in our area. Some folks play some games with us and go do other stuff. And that's great. Like that's the point of being at a big convention like that.
I'm going to challenge you on that whole thing, but there's never going to be as much, gaming as there was in 1980, but and from a percentage standpoint, that's obviously an accurate statement.
Yeah.
But there's actually quite a few people that, if you just count the people, right, that do wargaming at Origins, right?
Oh,
There's all
yeah.
the people hanging out at the Armchair Dragoons area. And I'm not talking about the miniatures people. I'm talking people playing stuff from GMT and MP, Clash of Arms,
Yep.
and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
There are, at any given time in that massive boardroom, somewhere between 2 and 10 tables of people playing stuff that falls into the wargaming space, and not debatably, right? I'm not talking about Twilight Struggle, although that happens too.
Or
I'm
Scythe.
talking about stuff like Combat Commander and Commands and Colors and coin stuff and stuff like that. There's always a game of Mark 7-inch's U.S. Civil War going. One year, people were playing Freedom in the Galaxy. Yes, an SPI copy of Freedom in the Galaxy. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. And I got a bunch of
most years, the cabbies set up something like a Giant Labatt game or 3 Days of Gettysburg or some other massive something that they spend the entire 4-day weekend playing a game.
Now that's correct, and that still happens, except it's usually a smaller game now because a couple of those guys moved or passed away. So that's less obvious than it was, but the same game still happens every year, and it's usually like a small Labatt game or something like, or a medium-sized ASL thing that they can play over the course of the whole weekend.
Yeah. Or I mean, there was one year, and it's been a while. I think one year they had DAC 2 out on the tables because I remember shoving the tables together to make the long skinny table. There are a lot of wargamers that are making the choice to go play a Euro something, particularly if they're dragging family along.
I saw people playing, at least one group of people playing Terraforming Mars at Winter Offensive. So, and it was offensive. So, I mean, if you could get away with that at Winter Offensive of all places, I figure it's okay. Nobody's actually going to give you a line of shit about playing something that's not a strict war game 100% of the time.
Yeah. And look, when I'm at Origins, I'm sitting there running wargame events, and if I got to jump in and be a player to balance the numbers in one of the events I'm running, that's great. But a good chunk of my shopping is not wargame stuff. I end up leaving a significant amount of money at the Studio 2 booth with all of their RPG stuff.
Those are the people with Traveler. So they got a nice chunk of change from me last year. Let me put it that way.
Well, pretty much most years.
Yeah, that's fair. So the Buckeye Game Fest is April. So the War Room, it's a Thursday through Sunday convention, right? But the War Room opens on Monday, and that starts April 24th this year. It is at the downtown Hyatt, attached to the convention center in downtown Columbus, Ohio. And to answer Alistair's question, is it okay to attend and just spectate? I mean, there's no rule that says you can't just hang around. But I personally, I mean, if I was just stopping in for a couple hours, then I might just kind of walk around and see what's going on. But if I was going to be there for multiple days, I'd want to play something. That said, confidence is high that we will find something for you to do. Might be Terraforming Mars, but barring that, I haven't talked to them about it yet, but probably the Players Aid guys are going to be there, and they ran a massive coin thing last year that had, I think, as many as 8 coin games running at any given time. So for a whole day, so there'll be stuff to do.
Yeah. I was just checking the April calendar. So Connections Online is the week before Buckeye.
That's what I figured.
Yep. So Connections Online will run 17 to 23 April. War Room opens on the 24th, and the main days of Buckeye Game Fest kick in on the 27th is Thursday, 28th is Friday. Do they have much happening on Thursday?
Sorry, what?
Buckeye Game Fest. Is there much going on Thursday, or it's still just?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The question is whether there's stuff going on Monday. Right. And there will be. It's sounding like there will be at least 2 tables of La Bataille happening, plus an OCS table, plus whatever else happens, and there might be a third Labatt table too. The best place, Strelnikov, the best place to find a comprehensive list of all the Wargame conventions is at the first link in the video description, which is to the Armchair Dragoons Wargaming events calendar.
Yeah,
you will have to take a look at those events, right, to see if they're miniatures games or other things, but.
All right. Yeah, it's right there. If you go to our site, it's the calendar tab, and there is the actual calendar. I got to finish loading up.
You're overcomplicating, Brant. It's literally the first link in the video description.
Well, there's that
already there. So
I got to finish loading up the 2023 events once we get past the spring. And then down below, there's an extract. This is just the convention events, because what's up above here includes things like the CABS meetings, the Wargaming Wednesdays at Labyrinth up in DC. This includes the Wargame days we have down here at Gamers Armory in the Raleigh area. This includes Saturday Night Fights. So Jim Ozarski's Saturday night streaming events that he's doing. So there's Gary's counter clipping.
In addition to the other 4 events a week that Jim streams.
Yeah, well, there's that too. So this goes beyond just the Wargame conventions up here on the calendar. This includes a lot of the other events that happen throughout the year. So if you, I'll throw this out there. If you guys have a club or regular organization that has normal meeting schedule or regular meetups that you want on the calendar, send me the info. I am happy to put it on there. Even better is if you've got your own Google Calendar that I can just subscribe to. So when you make the changes, they automatically post here. That's great. But at a minimum, send me that info and we'll get it on the big master calendar here so folks can check it out.
Yeah, this is the best resource of its kind for this kind of thing. Yeah. So bravo to Brant for actually doing it again.
Well, what's hilarious, some folks know this, like when we first opened the site in the late summer 2018, this was one of the key things we really wanted to promote. We went and dug up like every convention we could possibly find to throw on there that was even, that was Wargame or Wargame adjacent. And then all the different club meetings and game events at stores for all the different Wargame and Wargame adjacent. So not the RPG focused things, right? But other stuff from that, to include the minis guys. We were fine putting the mini stuff on here too. And it got like 4 hits that first year. Like nobody cared. And then COVID hit and it didn't matter. So we just completely ignored it and just let it sit there. And coming out of COVID, suddenly everybody's going to conventions again, and people started asking, hey, where's there a master list of all these Wargame conventions? Well, Jesus Christ, people. I had it 3 years ago and nobody gave
a shit. And you ignored it at the time, damn you.
So there you go. That's where to find it.
Srelnikov, no, you're definitely not disqualified from being a Georgia Bulldog. It's not like you're from Michigan. So it's all going to be okay.
Yeah.
So, all right, folks. So I think we are gonna have a final wrap up here, Brant. So
sure, yeah, we'll let folks jump over to the Washington Naval Treaty stream. Also, that one,
yep,
it is counter programmed to us here. That was not the intent. That was one of the ones that was supposed to happen like at 11 this morning, but the presenter's house was depowered at the time.
Right. So things happen. It sounds like Murphy had his way with the convention.
They had to put some fresh hamsters in the wheel to get the power back on.
Yeah. Yeah. So all right, folks. So hopefully everybody had a good time. I'm sure we'll be doing another one of these again next year. And of course, you'll be seeing Brant again at some point in the near to immediate future. So thanks everybody for coming. Brant, thanks for doing the show with us, and thanks for hosting the convention.
Hey, one quick note for those of you that attended, keep an eye on your email. You're going to have a follow-up survey, 7-8 questions come out quick. Just, hey, give us some thoughts on the convention. And those of you that are regulars are going to see some of the same questions over and over, because we're kind of tracking how those answers change over time. Those of you that did not attend, we're also going to post a small survey for the people that didn't attend a couple of places online, because we're kind of curious.
The survey will be called, "Why did you not attend, you dimwit?"
Yeah. Why did you blow us off, you bastards? No, but it's going to be sort of, was it a timing thing? Was it a technology thing? Was it a cost thing? Was there just nothing on the schedule that really piqued your interest enough to join us? Why was it that you weren't able to join us? Because if you weren't here, we still would like to know why not. And that's something that would be of interest to us as well. So keep an eye out for those.
Provide feedback, right? Give folks feedback. It's really valuable. That goes all over the place in the the content creator space and the convention space and all that stuff. And folks running these things in good faith would really like to hear what your good faith, praises and complaints are. So
yeah, yep. So if you're a registered convention attendee, hop over to the Washington Naval Treaty stream. If you got to back it up, just back it up and then put it on like 2x speed, and that'll catch you up eventually.
Yeah, and everybody will sound like Alvin and the Chipmunks. It'll be fantastic.
You don't on YouTube. It doesn't it doesn't.
If you
turn
go
into a
2
sticky
times, it
voice.
does. But if you go
No,
like
it doesn't.
1.5, you kind of get away with. But it's really very fast.
Yeah.
So, all right, folks. Hey, everybody, have a great night, and we will see you all again soon.
Thanks, folks.